So welcome to another Tokyo Revengers video guys. And yeah, this chapter was good. But we are still in the Shinichiro's arc. In each chapter, we learn what happened in the original timeline. In previous chapter, we saw Shinichiro kill the original time leaper. In order to go back in time and become a time leaper himself. He went to the extent of mercilessly hitting an old homeless man's head with an iron rod just for the sake of Mikey. But even so, he couldn't time travel back. But when he decided to end his grief and jump off the bridge, thinking about gambling his life to save his brother, he suddenly felt a trigger underwater just moments before his death, which made him go back to the past. He could see Mikey playing with the plane, which was the root cause of all his sufferings. After that chapter was released, there was so much confusion on how time leap works and who's the trigger for Shinichiro's time travel. But in this chapter there was a huge reveal about Shinichiro's trigger. And yeah, it's Sanzu. As I said in my last video, and many of you predicted this too, with the help of Sanzu, Shinichiro could go back in time for the sole purpose of keeping Mikey alive. So before we discuss more about it, as usual guys, I would kindly appreciate it if you can drop a like on the video and consider subscribing to the channel. Let's go into the video now. So I want to mention a few things about the previous chapter too. We saw Shinichiro getting drowned in the river, and during that time, Sanzu was there to stop him from jumping off the bridge. As Naoto had told Takemichi that when Takemichi leapt through time, his body was in a dead-like state. It was an empty shell. So this means, if Shinichiro was successful in time traveling back, his body in the original timeline must have been saved by someone. We see Sanzu's hands are extended to save Shinichiro, and in my opinion, it's a foreshadowing that Sanzu will be the trigger for Shinichiro. Both are equally desperate to save Mikey, and both of them care for him a lot. So I guess, an extremely strong emotion to save someone from the past is a factor for being the trigger. Takemichi also faced a similar situation too. If you all remember, in the first timeline Takemichi was hit by a train and got killed. But he could time travel back as he was thinking about Hina during his last moments. And when he went to the past, he told Naoto everything that will happen to him and his sister after 12 years in the future. This is the reason why Naoto became a detective in that timeline and saved Takemichi. After that, since they both have the same intention of saving Hina, Takemichi became the time leaper and Naoto his trigger. Sanzu and Shinichiro too had faced the same kind of incident as them, and I believe it was Sanzu who saved Shinichiro from underwater in the original timeline. And now let's get into the chapter. To start with, for the last few chapters, we only saw Mikey either in his vegetative state or dead. And suddenly now we're seeing him laughing and jumping in joy. The chapter begins with an energetic Mikey shouting and coming running towards Shinichiro with the plane. Shinichiro is in a shocked state. As we know, he still couldn't process the fact that he's actually seeing Mikey alive. Even though he saw him die with his own eyes. Then Mikey kicked Shinichiro on his face, which was somewhat similar to his present timeline invincible kick. This scene was so funny, as Shinichiro was knocked out by that kick. It made me think of all the characters who Mikey knocked out with that kick of his. Shinichiro was still thinking whether he was inside a dream or not. Because he was supposed to be dead as he jumped into the river. Then we see Takomi after so long. The last time we saw him in the manga was when Sanzu was narrating her story to Takemichi. But after that, we have no clue where he is. Many of you predict that he will come to help Takemichi against Mikey in the final battle, but based on Shinichiro's arc, I think he will play a small role in the story. Anyway, coming back to the chapter, we see Takomi asked if Shinichiro was alright and scolded Mikey. As he woke Shinichiro up from his sleep. That's when Shinichiro notices the calendar and sees that it's dated 30th July, the same date Mikey's accident happened, but it was 4 years back to the past. Mikey tells him that Shinichiro would have in general avoided that kick. But then we see Shinichiro's eyes gradually filling with tears. Mikey was so confused about seeing his brother cry. And then this emotional panel comes, where we see Shinichiro tightly hugging Mikey. Mikey thought he was hurt by his kick or something like that, but we all know why Shinichiro was crying. After going through so much pain, after giving up his dream, sacrificing his sleep, spending so much money on Mikey's treatment, he still couldn't save him. He killed an innocent man and even jumped off the bridge to kill himself just to see what he was seeing now, just to be able to hug him again. Shinichiro realized after hugging his brother that he wasn't dreaming. All his efforts in the original timeline did not go to a waste. Now I get why everyone compares Takemichi with Shinichiro. As Takemichi too isn't afraid of expressing his true emotions and crying in front of others. In the beginning of Shinichiro's arc, we were shown that Mikey was interested in learning bike riding. But Shinichiro didn't allow him. But after changing the timeline now, he realized he should teach Mikey what he wished for so that he doesn't have any regrets later. The scene changes to Shinichiro happily riding a bike with Mikey and slowly accepting the fact that he's living in reality. He should have been dead, according to what he did in the original timeline. But instead he's alive and living the same day 4 years ago. So yeah, he did leap through time. We see determination in Shinichiro's face as he said that since it's not a dream and he got one chance to save his little brother, he'll protect Mikey at all costs and fix his life. When I saw this panel, I had a thought that Tokyo Revengers series will now be focused on whether Mikey will actually be saved in the end or not. We know Takemichi time leapt back to save Hina, and when his goal was fulfilled, he got another mission, and that was to save Mikey. We can draw parallels between Shinichiro and Takemichi here too, as both wanted to save Mikey. So in my opinion, Shinichiro must have failed to save him. So it's now upon Takemichi to save Mikey now. Shinichiro then checks his phone and sees it's 3:30 p.m. The time when he gets a call from Grandpa, hearing that Mikey is hospitalized. After seeing this panel, I have a theory. What if Shinichiro tried to save Mikey over and over again by switching timelines, but still failed? Because in Sanzu's backstory, we didn't see Shinichiro getting hit by Mikey's kick that day. But here we see that, so maybe this timeline and Sanzu's backstory timeline are two different timelines. Just like Takemichi kept jumping from one timeline to another to save Hina, even Shinichiro might have done that. So if Shinichiro really did this, it'll give us more information about how time leap works. Many of you guys are so interested in the old man, as before dying, he said that he killed the person in front of him and got his powers. We still don't know who that was and whether he's the first time leaper or not. I think if Ken Wakui-sensei drags this arc a little bit more, it'll be revealed to us soon. Talking about the chapter, Shinichiro asks Mikey exactly at 3:30 p.m. how he feels and Mikey replies that he's getting a hang of riding the bike. Shinichiro reflects on how in the original timeline, after this day Mikey entered his vegetative state and stopped moving forever. But now in the new timeline, Mikey is perfectly fit and fine, so Shinichiro questions whether his fate really changed. But according to my theory, I still believe nobody can change one's fate, as one has to go through whatever is destined for them from before. Escaping one's fate is not possible by any means. In the next scenes, we see Shinichiro being concerned about his grandfather and Emma. As in the original timeline, grandfather was dead and Emma had eloped from her house. But here, he was so relieved to see both of them safe and sound. He even offers to help them in the kitchen and then gets into cleaning the house. Here, Shinichiro, while he was busy cleaning and thinking that at last everything is fine, he hears "Stop, Mikey" from outside. This was one of the most important scenes of yesterday's chapter. Shinichiro goes running outside to see what happened. Here again, he sees Mikey is standing in front of Sanzu and Sanzu has blood in his hands. If you notice, Mikey's eyes are completely blank and Shinichiro sees an evolving black abyss surrounding Mikey. This is the first time we see Mikey's dark impulse as a child. And I'm not sure if Shinichiro is able to see that black thing as well. We saw this scene almost 3 times from different points of view. But still we're not sure about exactly what happened and how Sanzu got his scars. Shinichiro was shocked after seeing all these. This proved that this was actually the first time Mikey portrays his dark impulse. Later in the night, Shinichiro had a talk with Mikey. asking why he did something like that. Mikey is very guilty and says that even he's unaware of why he did that to Sanzu. It seems like when Mikey gets immersed into his dark impulse, he literally doesn't care about his friends. But still, there's so much we still don't know about his dark impulse. Hope we get all the answers in the final battle. The next morning after the incident, we see a Mikey apologizing to Sanzu. He says, "I'm sorry, I did something awful to you." Mikey is suffering too much from guilt, as his scars might be permanent. After he left, Shinichiro had a talk with Sanzu. He asks him to forgive Mikey and remain friends with him. Sanzu says he will, as Mikey is his friend for life. Then comes the most awaited panel of the chapter. Sanzu shakes hands with him, and Shinichiro feels a trigger. So many people predicted who will be the trigger for Shinichiro, and at last it got revealed that it's Sanzu. And I've already discussed in the beginning of the video how Sanzu is the trigger. And I'm sure he will play an important role in the story. If you guys have any theory related to time leap, please comment down below. I'll make a video about it tomorrow. So finally, Shinichiro got back to the original timeline, and at last his dream came true. He sees a grown-up Mikey who's healthy and fine. So anyway, if you guys like this video, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. And good luck to all.